Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Even if you didn't watch the shows or play the games, chances are you'd know something about them. Japanese media has become one of the most popular outlets for TV shows, movies, and video games. In this video, we'll cover the history of Japanese animation and discover the amazing relationship between Japan and the Western movie and gaming industries. The Japanese love for the moving picture started with the arrival of Edison's kinescope and Lumiere Brothers' cinematographer in the late 1890s. On June 30, 1917, Junichi Kauchi, the father of anime, created what is considered as the first anime ever made, Namakura Gatana, a short samurai warrior animation movie. In 1933, the short animation film Chikara to Onna no Yonaka was the first to include voiceovers. It was about a husband and a wife having marriage problems, which was a pretty unique concept, and naturally, it was a huge success. It's important to note that the emperor at the time rejected liberal attitudes toward Western influence. As a result, most films were created for nationalism, anti-American propaganda, and moral needs. After World War II, the emperor understood the public's need for entertainment, and so the Japanese industry slowly started to distribute new movies. The revival of the Japanese animation industry began only in 1958 and got its first international success with 1963 Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. Tezuka grew up on classics like Dumbo and Scrooge McDuck, and claimed to have watched Disney's Bambi about 80 times. He was the first to draw inspiration from the Western cinema world. I began to use cinematic techniques. French and German movies that I had seen as a schoolboy became my model. I experimented with close-up and different angles, and instead of using only one frame for an action scene or the climax, as was customary, I made a point of depicting a movement or facial expression with many frames, even many pages. His revolutionary techniques, creativity and dedication have rightfully earned him the title, the god of manga and anime. However, if we really want to thank someone, it's probably Tezuka's mother that told him, "You should work doing the thing you like most of all." One of Tezuka's most well-known achievements was writing an illustration of the manga, Kimba the White Lion. Its anime adaptation was the first color animated series in Japan, and the original series lasted for 2 whole years between 1965 and 1967. The story follows a young lion cub that tries to survive on his own and embraces his father's values as a leader. Sounds familiar? It obviously hasn't been confirmed by Disney, but The Lion King has a whole bunch of similarities with this manga, from their settings and plots to the characters' design and purpose in the story. Also, Simba, Kimba, smooth transition, Disney. While the Japanese animation industry did get some global recognition up until this point, the 80s was when it really bloomed. In 1985, Studio Ghibli was founded by director Hayao Miyazaki and producer Toshio Suzuki. Ghibli charmed the world with a blend of humor, fantasy, emotional gravity, and reverent characters. You may know them for creating Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and Princess Mononoke, which were a huge success and a source of inspiration to many Western movies and cartoons, such as Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, and Toy Story. In addition, movies and TV shows started to be exported repeatedly to Western countries. Some examples are Ghost in the Shell, which later gave inspiration to the Matrix series, Vampire Hunter D, Ranma and a Half, and of course, Dragon Ball, which has been one of the most popular TV series consistently in the past 30 years. The anime fandom became so popular, both in Japan and around the world, that by the early 90s, Japanese geek culture had its own term, what we know today as otaku. Meanwhile, the gaming industry has started to take root as well, starting with arcade games like Space Invaders and Pac-Man in the mid to late 70s. Believe it or not, Sega used to be one of the leading companies in this field. Their games dominated arcades in and out of Japan. They also tried to compete in the home gaming console market with the release of the SG-1000 in 1982, but it was only somewhat successful. In the early 1980s, Nintendo has joined the fray, the company's most notable arcade entry being Donkey Kong, which was one of the first games to allow players to jump. The character Jumpman would later become Mario, one of the most famous mascots in the world. In 1983, they released their first console, the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short. It was a huge success, with games that still get new versions even today, like Mario franchise, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Kirby. By mid-1988, one of every 3 Japanese households owned an NES. Nintendo was definitely the most successful video game company at the time. One company that followed in Nintendo's footsteps was Sony, with the PlayStation 1 being released in 1984. The console has had a variety of exclusive games like Tekken, Crash Bandicoot, and Proper the Rapper, as well as games that are based on already existing franchise such as Digimon World and Yu-Gi-Oh! True Duel Monsters. PlayStation hit its peak with its next version. The PlayStation 2 was released in 2002 and has the highest sales for any console till date, with over 150 million copies. The Japanese anime and gaming industries became the mainstream in the late 90s and early 2000s. Western production companies bought the license for popular animes like One Piece, Inuyasha, and Death Note, and created the English dub to appeal to new generation of fans around the world. Nintendo's Game Boy variants and Sony's PlayStation completely dominated the console market for about a decade, with entries we all know and love, like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, and Shadow of the Colossus. One of the greatest examples for the increasing influence Japan had on the average 19th kid is the Pokémon franchise, with its first international debut being in the 1996 game Pokémon Red and Blue. The game received immediate praise and sold over 30 million copies worldwide. Because of the increasing popularity, the Pokémon TV series was released in 1997, less than a year after the games. The franchise was booming in the early 2000s, with new generation coming out every 3 to 4 years. As someone who grew up on the show since it first came out, I can tell you that even back then, everyone knew what Pokémon was. Today, Pokémon is the highest grossing media franchise in the world, with total revenue of over $95 billion. It has 32 core games, 22 TV seasons, 23 movies, and ridiculous amounts of merch. Honestly, if you ask someone who's never watched or played Pokémon to paint a picture of Pikachu, chances are they do a pretty good job. Anime has never been more popular. According to an annual study from 2019, the anime industry reached a new all-time high, with earnings of more than $20 billion. Hollywood and Western companies are catching on and trying to get a piece of the action, creating live adaptations, as well as movies, TV series and games, with an art style similar to that of an average Japanese anime. Some examples are the Avatar: The Last Airbender's original series and The Ghost in the Shell's live adaptation starring Scarlett Johansson. Conventions around the world already have the Japanese culture at the center of attention, with an abundance of related merch, events, and of course, cosplay. Feel free to tell us what TV shows and games you grew up on in the comments below. Also, from here on out, we'll try our best to upload at least once a week, so subscribe and hit the notification button. Hope you enjoyed the video and have a good one.